All right, we're here. We're gonna take our Jeeps off-road for the first time. I don't know how difficult of a trail this is, but we're gonna go ahead and give this trail a run. This is the Foothills Trail and it's open to the public, so we're gonna see what this is all about. We got both the Rubicon and the Moab out here, and we're gonna switch back and forth and see how we like this. Now, I'm not certain that this is a difficult trail by any means, so we're gonna leave this in two-wheel drive and see how it goes, and if we see some trouble up ahead, then we'll switch it around and put it into four-wheel drive. So I know everybody's been asking for a side-by-side comparison of the two vehicles, so we'll see what we can get today. And my wife, of course, is driving the Rubicon up ahead, and she's got my son Wyatt with her, and odds are he's playing video games and not paying any attention. He'll let us know if he finds a Pokemon. So this is a public trail, so we're going to have to be paying attention to any ATVs or anybody else that's out here running the trail today. Usually anybody that's out on these trails tend to be good people, generous people, helpful. You know, that's the kind of atmosphere you want to keep up when you're out on these trails. You can see that some trees have been downed and people have cleared those out of the way to keep the trail open. I'd say this is pretty stable so far. I mean, it's not abnormally bumpy or anything. Nice smooth ride, considering what we're driving through. A little bit of water. It'll be interesting to see how much of the bounciness gets taken out by the GoPro 7 stabilization that it has built into it. I almost wonder if I should turn that off so you guys can get a true feel of it. See, I told you guys. %14 pitch.
Have to give in and use four-wheel drive.
Yeah, you tore it up pretty good.
Just stop here and put it in four-wheel drive because it's more level.
You just didn't have enough momentum.
Couldn't get momentum because I was sliding so bad. Tires are really not good on any surface.
Alright guys, so we've switched over, traded Jeeps. So now my wife is driving the Moab, as you can see in front of us. Figured we'd let her continue to lead the way so you can get footage of her in that while I'm driving the Rubicon. Obviously, just to recap again, that is a Moab, Sahara Moab, so it's all dressed up and fully loaded with a bunch of stuff. It doesn't have the same drivetrain as the Rubicon. The Rubicon's got a more off-road style drivetrain. It's a little rougher in here, a little bouncier. Again, this isn't rock climbing or anything like that. This is just a bit of a trail, backwoods trail that we have out here. Horse pasture trail. It's a lot of fun. It's fun to drive through, but it's nothing complicated or difficult to do. But Again, this is a manual transmission as well, where the Moab is an automatic. And we don't really need four-wheel drive for either of these vehicles on this trail. At least that's what we've come to find out. We got about halfway through the trail, maybe a little more, before we switched over vehicles here. But I mean, it's not too dissimilar between the vehicles. They have a lot of similarities. But wanted to get some time here and get you guys a little bit of video. So one thing that I'm noticing right away is the difference in the tires. Not so much the ride of the vehicles, but really you can feel the difference in how I'm going down the hills and where I need to brake and where it's sliding a little bit. But I just got in here, so I'll give it some time, do some driving, and make a final statement after I get a little bit more seat time. I don't want to jump to conclusions. I think the Rubicon will really shine the best when we get into something quite a bit more severe than this. This is too easy.
Driving everyone crazy.
Wading through some water. I have to say, both of these Jeeps are handling these trails fantastically though. They ride very well. They're about as comfortable as I can imagine you could be in this type of vehicle. They're a blast to drive through here. Of course, this is easy wheeling, two-wheel drive, second gear, just cruising around.
These tires definitely grip better.
Alright guys, so we've just got through the trail over here at Lake Jocassee, and Forest Pasture Trail is what they call it, and we took out the Moab, and then we also came back and took out the Rubicon with it. So the footage you guys saw was us going back and forth between each other here, riding through that trail. And I personally would have to say that the biggest difference between these two vehicles is actually the tires. So they do ride slightly different. The Rubicon is a slightly bumpier ride. The Moab is a little less bumpy, a little more firm. But the major difference, in my opinion, between these two vehicles is really the tire and the tire tread. And where that was most noticeable was when you were going up and down a mountain. So when you were going down the mountain, you could feel this one wanting to slide down it. And when you went up the mountain, there was actually one or two occasions where we had to put the Rubicon in four-wheel drive because it started slipping on us. Now, I'm sure some of you more experienced drivers of trails and so forth, off-roading, would say, well, you just didn't have enough momentum. And yeah, that's true, but on these trails, they're not really designed for you to go gunning it up hills. They're actually kind of paced out in such fashion where you have to take the hills a little bit slower. So my recap of this is they're very similar on a simple trail like this. I think the differences between these two vehicles will shine a little bit more on more difficult trails, something that takes a little more technical, a little bit of a rock climbing situation where you'll want to use that sway bar disconnect that the Rubicon has or even the lockers that the Rubicon has. But if you're not using those, this trail's really simple. It's more of a path than a trail, and you don't really need four-wheel drive for this trail. So the advantages that the Rubicon has, you don't really need it for the Moab, and the Moab doesn't hurt from not having it. So in my opinion, it's kind of a wash. I personally enjoy driving both of them. I love the manual. Manual is always my favorite, the way to go. But then the convenience of the automatic, I have to admit, I do enjoy being able to sip on my drink while I'm cruising down the trail. So I'm caught in the middle. You couldn't get me to say I favor one versus the other. They're very different. Now, the one thing you can get me to say is I'm going to replace these tires. I want a better tire on this car. I like these mudders. They might not be as big or as wide as they are on the Rubicon, but these tires were noticeably better on this trail. And I think if you ask my wife, who's behind the camera, she would probably agree with me. But that's all we got for you guys today. So thank you for joining us. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, follow us over on Instagram at Quick Shifts, and we'll see you guys on another trail later on. Thank you.